Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Yellow Squared podcast. It is the final day of the season. We've just seen Watford take home 3 points. And I'm, of course, Ned, joined by my brother James. Good evening, James. How are you?
Good evening, mate. Yes, I'm very well. The coronation weekend was crowned with 3 points.
Absolutely. Fantastic. A good way to end the season, 2-0 against Stoke. Decent goal from Loser and a nicely worked goal for Davis on the second. Yeah, solid 3 points. And finally, a bit of a nice way to end the season, which has, on the whole, been pretty rubbish. So that pushed us just into the top half of the table. So any other thoughts on Stoke before we move on to the main topic, James?
I don't think there's too much to take away from that game. Unsurprisingly, I thought the I thought that, as I said, the goals were good. Losers finish in particular was really nice
Yeah,
and really well worked. And Davis, yeah, he managed to make real hard work of that build-up play before it deflecting into the far corner. But yeah, it was the end of the season. Stoke, I think they tried a little bit.
yeah,
It really had the feel of sort of that end of season atmosphere. I
yeah,
was only watching on online, but I wasn't at the game. But it came through as well that it was like you could see there was a real big sort of junior Hornets presence, and they were enjoying it, which was nice to see,
yeah,
and glad they got to see a win. But so no, I don't think there was too much to take away from the game. But there was a couple of highlights, or I think maybe not highlights, but points to take away from it.
hmm
We'll come into this, I think, in towards the end of the season, or sorry, um, at the end of this season with some of our plans for forward look to next summer with the squad. But
mm,
I was kind of looking at the players on the pitch that we know are leaving or almost certain to depart, and they didn't really make me think, oh my goodness, we're going to struggle without them, or we'll really miss them.
yeah,
Um, but again, I thought Andrews did well and made a couple of brilliant recoveries,
mm,
and he's sort of showing what he can do. And then it was just really nice, wasn't it, to see Jack Greaves and Adrian Blake getting on at the end, if not, in my opinion, a little bit too late. I would have
yeah,
liked them to have had a little bit longer to play. But so yeah, 2-0. Poor old Stoke fans having to travel down to Watford on a bank holiday Monday
yeah,
for
yeah,
not much, to be honest. But yeah, we'll take it. And obviously, we go into next season um, on undefeated. So
yeah,
you
yeah.
got to take the positives where they come from.
Obviously, yeah. And a huge shout out to the Stoke fan that walked from Stoke to Watford, raising money for I can't remember the name of the charity, but really well done to him. And
Oh yeah,
yeah,
superb work.
fantastic work from him to do that and to hopefully have raised a lot of money for the charity in particular. So yeah, like you said, decent 2-0 performance. I would have liked to have seen probably Blake and Greaves get on a bit earlier. But yeah, they look pretty decent when they came on. Look hungry, and that's just sort of the main thing that we've been missing this
Well,
season. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so we started with a back five and then changed to a back four. And to be fair, we looked fairly solid in the back four, bit shaky at times in the back five, but that's it's going to happen with any Watford team. So
It seems so.
uh, a s- uh, I'm going to say a satisfying way to end the season. It wasn't particularly brilliant, but like you said, nice to see Watford winning on the final day of the season because I cannot, for the life of me, think of the last time that we won on the last day. Um,
I
so
think it was I think it was the promotion season against Swansea. That was where
it might have
success
been.
scored
Oh
that
yeah,
absolute
yeah, it
absolute
was.
screamer, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I,
that would have been it. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Well, there you go then. But yes, right. So we'll move on to the main topic of this week's podcast, and that is who is going to be managing Watford at the start of next season. And I say the start of next season because we could have finished with 6 more managers by the end of next season. But just for now, we're going to focus on maybe who's going to be at the wheel for the summer and into the start of next season. Obviously, the rumour mill is already in full swing after the club, well, essentially confirmed that Wilder's not going to be there next season, with names like Francesco Farioli and Valerian Ismael being sort of the front runners
Mm.
for the job. And if I'm being honest, James, I'm quite excited about the prospect of Valerian Ismael more so than Farioli. I don't know what you think, but in my opinion, I think Ishmael would be a really interesting one to give the summer and get him in for the start of next season. So what do you think?
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to look at this maybe in two ways. So I think there's been a couple of names that have been chucked out sort of on social media as in the picture at the moment, and then maybe sort of my kind of holistic manager, the ideal manager that I think the squad needs.
Mm,
So I think you can break it down two ways. But yeah, no, I kind of agree with you, mate, about the Valerian Ismail rumours. He obviously did very well at Barnsley,
mm,
struggled at West Brom, but then we've
yeah,
also seen quite a few managers struggle at West Brom a little bit
yeah,
in recent seasons. And obviously, is it Besiktas he's gone to, or he's
yeah,
definitely in
yeah.
Turkey? Is in Besiktas
It
now?
was
So
Besiktas, yeah.
so I think as a manager, he likes high press, high intensity, high tempo, kind of football, which is something that I would love to see at Watford. Sort of attacking football. We
Yeah,
ranked our
yeah.
favourite Pozzo seasons last week, and,
Mm,
and undoubtedly number one was the 14-15 season where we
yeah,
where
yeah.
we went up and we scored. It was real fun attacking football, um, and I think that's what the Watford fans want bringing back. So I think Ismail or a manager in that mould would be brilliant.
Mm,
I think the key thing for me, because just to go back to Farioli, I think as is starting to come out, and with Andrew French's interviews with Ben Manga, and we spoke about Ben Manga, what I would want is the head coach that we appoint is to be Manga's pick.
yeah,
So if Ismail is that, then get him in. Same with Farioli. Same with this quoted unknown German manager that
mm,
is wafting around social media.
mm,
Um, People are going, please be Nagelsmann. Other people are going, please don't be Farker. Who knows? We don't know. But I think the key thing for me is as long as it is Ben Manga's pick, um, then brilliant. And
mm,
if we are going to go for someone like Valerian Ismail, high intensity, high tempo, then he needs to be appointed quickly because he's going to need pre-season to get these players fit
yeah.
and in
Oh
shape,
yeah,
and
oh yeah.
and the players to be signed for him.
Mm,
Um, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that's in short, yeah, it's Ismail. I would take him at the club
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
I think maybe it might be too easy to say. I think the pressing need is that whoever is put in charge of the coaching side of things, it needs to change drastically behind the scenes
yeah,
in order for them to succeed. So if that happens, then you know um, I think yeah, any appointment's a good appointment. But as we've spoken about, I don't think the club is in a position as it stands to for any head coach to come in and succeed unless, as Manga has suggested, things change behind the scenes.
yeah. No, I completely agree with you. I think just looking at some of the stats from both Ishmael and Farioli, like you say, it does have to be the guy that Manga wants himself,
Mm.
people that he can enjoy working with. Because obviously, we've seen that if uh, if it doesn't go well with the sporting director and the manager, it usually ends up with the manager getting hooked. We saw that with Bilic, as they really were quoted as not get along, and disagreed quite a lot with who they wanted to sign. So it's important that it really does have to be the guy that Manga wants. And to be honest, as much as we've said that Ismael would be, a really solid guy to have, most notably that Barnsley season where he took a fairly average Barnsley side with a couple of solid loans. Don't get me wrong, but he took them to fifth in the Championship in that promotion season we had, with an average of 1.84 points per game over 44 games, and that's no laughing matter for the Championship. That's solid numbers to draw up, and again, he's working some decent numbers in Besiktas in Turkey right now.
Mm,
Only
mm,
18 matches played, but he's on an average of 1.72 points per game, which is these are not rookie numbers, and it could be, a solid appointment. Like you said, it's definitely down to who Manga wants. And in regards to Farioli, he's quite an unknown quantity. So he spent his entire managing career in Turkey, being the assistant manager at Alanyaspor, and then eventually becoming the head coach there. He's worked under Roberto De Zerbi
mm.
during his career, which could prove to be, quite interesting given how well De Zerbi is doing. And obviously, if he's learnt properly and learnt well, that could translate into his own style of football, as we've seen from people like Pep and Arteta and all that. These kind of people that have learnt from someone else and then pushed on themselves. So that's quite interesting. I think they're both good names to have linked to Watford. It just comes down to that, the choice being Manga's, and then eventually the people just getting on together and building the squad they want. Like you said though, any style of football which requires pressing, they'll need to get the manager through the door quite quickly after the end of the season's finished, with all the people going on holiday and whatnot. Obviously, as the matches have finished now, but there needs to be in and ready for pre-season to get them up to speed and up to fitness. So yeah, it is. There are some interesting names swilling around in the rumour mill, but yeah, I think that's quite. Those two are
So,
definitely front runners.
so those have been the names that have come out at the moment. Obviously, now the season comes to a close, more names are going to emerge, and
Yeah,
obviously
yeah,
once the playoffs and the Premier League promotion relegations and kind of the major leagues draw to a close, well, more names will become available. Um, what kind of manager would you want? What's your kind of sort of dream manager? Not names, but kind of in terms of playing style,
yeah. Attributes.
um, demographic,
Mm.
up. Yeah, I say upbringing. Someone like a Farioli in the mold of a De Serbi,
Yeah, yeah.
or someone left field, or someone from the lower leagues of the EFL, or something like that. Is there anyone or any kind of thing you'd be looking for in a manager?
I think I'd like the idea of a manager that will develop youngsters, youth players, and bring them through into the first
Yeah,
team, because obviously the under 18s and the under 21s at Watford are starting to become more prominent within the club. So a manager that uses the youth a lot more so than we've seen previous managers do at Watford, that would be perfect, really. I think using a mixture of youth and experience in the
mm,
squad, as well as having a good leader and somebody who can pick out a good leader. And yeah,
yeah,
just on terms of in terms of the pitch itself, like in the games, I think a manager that plays more a pressing football, winning the ball back higher up the pitch and capitalizing on errors, forcing the opposition into making those errors. But a manager that, yeah, just quick tempo, moving the ball quickly through the through the final phase
Mm.
and creating lots of opportunities and just high pressure rather than sitting off and you know inviting pressure onto us that we've seen quite a lot this season. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's that. Those are the kind of main ones, just sort of using youth and high pressure and that sort of things. Obviously, lots of goals. But yeah, but what kind of a manager would you sort of want to lean towards?
So I think a little bit like what you said. Um, I think what we've seen, and the kind of the managers that have had success, just sort of generally, when you look around the leagues recently, they have kind of been a bit more youthful. So I think I'd like to have a
Yeah,
bit more of a younger manager. I think football management has changed so much, um, but so I think I'd like a bit more of a youthful manager. But I think for me, and this is where I think Manga has hinted with his interviews in terms of he wants someone that wants to come and work. He'd like rather have a player that is less technically gifted, but is a hard worker, or basically someone who
yeah,
wants to come and play for the club. So I think I would want a manager that is relatively unknown, but has been picked because of the potential that they've shown. So I'm not necessarily worried, gunning for a big name, but I think I'd like to have somebody who is an up and coming manager or coach with lots of potential,
mm,
uh, and I'm not necessarily fussed about where they have coached before. If I'm being frank, um, you know, we always seem to get linked with, well, take last summer for example, we seem to be getting linked with people like Russell Martin who's at Swansea now, previous
yeah,
MK Dons, and
yeah,
John Eustace. I'm not averse to any of those names. Similarly, I'm not averse to a relatively unknown name um, from Europe, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if Manga's pick is somebody from sort of Germany,
no,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
area. So yeah, I think youthful, determined to prove something, not too fussed about the CV, and somebody who plays, some kind of high pressing football. And I think if somebody like Sarr is likely to leave, I would, I really do like an attacking, um, sort of 3-4-3, or like an attack with like wing backs, attacking, that kind of football. So.
yeah,
Um, that would be sort of my dream manager. Someone that plays with wing backs, high press, high tempo, um, aggressive attacking football. That's kind of where I'm at, and I'll be interested to see, where that goes.
yeah. Well, as you said, the kind of ins and outs in the transfer window is going to be huge this summer, particularly with who goes out and for what fee. Obviously,
Mm.
um, people like Kamara are for certain leaving, but you'd imagine somebody like Sarr would leave for 10 to
Yeah,
15 million pounds, and that can be reinvested. Even potentially people like Loser might move on.
yeah,
Um,
potentially, yeah.
Depending on how the club wants to rebuild. Obviously, he's a very talented player, and I would prefer to keep hold of him, especially in the Championship. But maybe he would be interested in moving on, particularly with setting his sights in a very competitive Morocco team internationally. Whether staying at Watford would be sort of would prevent him from maintaining that place in the international side.
Yeah.
That these are all factors that could
Mm.
play in for these players, in particular Sarr as well. Um, you know, if people move on, that could bring in some decent money, which can be reinvested. But yeah, like you said, it's all down to getting the manager in fairly early, and then controlling the ins and outs. What does the manager want? What working with Manga. What do they want? What kind of a squad do they want to build? And then we move on from there. And
Mm.
today, um, we saw just before the national anthem was sung, before the Stoke game, you could just see both sets of teams lined up around the semicircle. um, a centre circle, sorry, and you could just see like the Watford players were not stood together. There was no unison, and it really just seemed like 11 individuals again that we've seen so often this season.
Yeah.
It's just a manager that could provide that kind of unison and bring a bit of connection between the fans and the players back to Vicarage
Mm.
Road and on our travels at Watford. It would just that's probably more so important for me than any kind of finish in at the top end of the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a team we can get behind because I've got no issues with finishing mid-table in the championship if we've gone out and worked hard. But
Mm.
I cannot get behind this team that are just full of individuals. No one's putting the work in for anyone else, and yeah, there's no unison whatsoever, which is probably another thing I would add to my perfect manager. So
Yeah, what some kind of uh yeah, real player management
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
bonding
yeah,
type attributes.
yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
I think especially with the kind of mindset I would like to have of bringing in youth players and moving players up from the academy, as a player manager um, who is really good at people managing and developing players would be unbelievably important to nurture those youthful players and bring them into the first team. And people like Ryan Andrews could really cement himself in the right wing back position if he's
Mm.
given the right coach and the right the right mentality and all this from a good sort of people manager, which would be really important for me as a fan watching Watford next season. So,
No,
any
agreed. Yeah.
any more points on the managers before we move on to a bit of news?
No, I don't think so. I think we'll and as we've alluded to, we've got some plans for the sort of the close season pods, and I
Yeah,
think as we
yeah,
get a
yeah,
little bit more as we get a little bit more of an idea of who's in the running, um, we can have a little bit more of a deep dive. But I think that's just our hot take at the moment. I think
yeah, yeah.
for the end of the season where we're at. So no, I think that's the manager's done, mate.
Sweet. Yeah. So we'll move on to the news roundup. So today, before the game, we said our goodbyes to João Pedro, who is moving to Brighton and Hove Albion next season
Yeah.
for a club record fee of £30 million with some add-ons that could move the transfer up to £35 million. So unfortunate to see him go, but we got to say goodbye to him today for all those who are at the stadium, which is really nice to see. And yeah, the sort of Instagram montage that he put up was pretty special as well. So really sad to see him go, but he deserved his send off, and ultimately, yes, definitely deserved his Player of the
Absolutely.
Season
Yeah.
award. There was no one else within a country mile that could have come up on his level. So
I don't think so.
really, really glad for him. Glad he's got his move into a brilliant club, an excellently run club, and hopefully they can push on for Europe in the next season or two. And yeah, he can really put his name up in lights. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Moving on then to the young player of the season, which was James Morris. So that's a really well deserved award in my opinion. I don't know what you think, James.
No, I completely agree. I think he was the obvious choice.
Yeah,
Um, especially, I don't know I don't know the exact criteria for it. I don't know what the age cutoff is, but with João picking up the player of the season,
yeah,
James Morris is thoroughly deserving of the young player of the season.
yeah,
If not for the determination and the hard work that he's put in and shown to, get to a point where he was at one point nailing down that left back spot.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
thoroughly deserved and delighted he got that contract extension.
Yeah, really well done to him. I think maybe if Ryan Andrews had come in a few games earlier, maybe a couple months earlier than he did, maybe he could have been in the ring for that award. But
Yeah,
like you said,
possibly.
James Morris, I think he's had a really good breakthrough season, and like you said, really well done to him for getting that contract extension. That is very well deserved, and he could be a very
Yeah,
useful squad player next season.
absolutely. And Toby Adeyemo, just a quick note on him. because I think he got injured at the wrong time for him for
Yeah,
this season.
yeah,
Because obviously he came in, we saw him in the flesh at Reading in the cup game.
yeah,
Then he came and scored the winner against Blackpool, and he looked like a real handful. And I think when Watford was struggling for a bit of presence and work rate up top, um, sort of towards the end of the Bilic era or, well, to be honest, since January,
yeah,
um, I think he had a real shot at proving himself. So
mm,
hard luck to him. It just shows the fine margins, I suppose, in professional football. But
yeah.
yeah, I think you've absolutely nailed the kind of the three people in the running for that award. And but I don't have any qualms. No qualms.
No, not at all. Then moving on, Sarr, obviously his goal against West Brom, one goal of the season. No surprises there, as it won Championship goal of the season as well. Spectacular goal.
Yeah.
We've already spoken about it before, even though many people disagree with that decision.
I'm
But
surprised Watford didn't announce Brad Potts as the winner
yeah, no,
for his volley.
yeah,
Somebody tell second tier pod that Potts didn't win again.
that's disgusting. That's disgusting.
Shameful.
Shameful decision. Finally, though, very well
Just
deserved.
just on that, mate. Just on that. Sorry, I know we had Ismail won the goal of the season. Any others that came close? There's a couple in mind which I
Ooh,
think were quite nice goals throughout the season. That bio volley away at Rotherham.
oh yeah, that
Uh,
was solid. That
the Crow, that was a lovely little finish. And there's a couple of nicely worked team goals.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, and I was at the Cardiff game, and the
That
only
that
highlight
goal
was
was
that
brilliant.
goal. But I think those are kind of the two off the top of
Well,
my
I've got one in mind.
head. Yeah, go for it.
The Britta Sumberlonger goal against Birmingham. Really,
Oh.
really sealed the game. Fantastic finish. I think it was just in behind Sarr, at West Brom.
You're so mean. You're so mean to him. Uh, but yeah, no, yeah. I don't think there was anything that came close to it really. Sar's
No,
goal was
no.
superb.
But that bio goal was pretty special, wasn't it, to get a point at Rotherham?
It was great technique to be fair, wasn't it? It was a good finish. We
Yeah,
were stood directly behind it, although
just
the other end of
behind
the
it.
pitch.
Yeah,
But yeah, that was a real rocket.
yeah. So moving on to the final award that was announced today, and a very well done to Megan Chandler, who won the Women's Player of the Season, and coupled alongside that, a fantastically well done to the Golden Girls, who won the Women's National League. They pipped both Ipswich and Oxford on the final day as the Ipswich and Oxford game went 1-1, and obviously the women won 3-0 away at Billericay, which brought the title home to
Yeah.
Vicarage Road. So fantastically well done. They now head into the playoff final, where it is a rematch against Nottingham Forest women.
Yeah.
That's going to be a spicy game. It's at MK Dons' ground, which is a lot closer than the Pirelli Stadium for
Yeah.
any Watford fans who are interested in going to that. But
Yeah.
that'd be great to see as many people as possible down there supporting the Golden Girls, because
Yeah,
they've
absolutely
really
right.
shown the men's team what it's like to be a real team, and they thoroughly deserve it. I think they deserve to go up, because they've had such a fantastic season, and to come away
Yeah.
with nothing at the end of it would be a real shame for
Yeah, it would
them.
be, wouldn't it? And
Yeah.
and another bit of news linked to the women's team was the unveiling of the Helen Ward mural in
Oh
the
yeah,
corner of
yeah,
the
yeah.
corner
Saw
of the
that.
Vic, which was really nice. And I think is I genuinely I don't believe got enough
No, no,
coverage
no.
and press. That's the sort of thing that as a club we should be lauding.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's a really nice thing to do, especially with the career that Helen Ward's had,
yeah,
both internationally and for the club,
yeah,
and it's really well deserved. And it was a lovely video, wasn't it? Great reaction
yeah,
by
yeah,
all of the
yeah.
all of the players and Helen herself when it was unveiled. So I thought that was a really nice thing for the club to do and for the women's team to organise, presumably.
Yeah.
But a little ray of light that does show that there are elements within the club that are doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, really nice to see. And in the words of Ben Foster, Helen Ward, what a friggin' legend. Which I know is not going to go down well with Watford Twitter.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
But
be
no,
careful.
what a nice way to end the season and to end Helen's career. Really well deserved. What a legend for the Watford
Right.
ladies and in Watford Football Club as well. Thoroughly deserved. And it's a really nice mural as well. Really
Yeah, it
well
looks cool,
painted.
doesn't it? Yeah,
Really cool. So I think that is everything for this week's podcast.
certainly is.
Bit of a shorter one than usual, but I think it's been just as good as always. Thank you very much for the support recently. It's been really, really nice to see. And we'll catch you again very soon with another podcast. We're moving on to some more interesting stuff in the off season. We've got some stuff on the back burner we're working on, and we'll get it out to you really soon. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you very soon. Take care, guys.
Cheers now.